everybody, Alison Gardner here, and thank you for joining me for another video as we walk this journey of supporting loved ones with mental illness, depression, anxiety, and all the different things. And today I want to share about the importance, the power, and the danger of remembering. This video has been on my mind for quite some time, and has been something that's rolled around a lot. At first, I wanted to share it. Sorry, there's just so much inside of me. There's so much that I want to share, and so I'm trying to think of how to explain it. And I think I'm actually going to start with this ring. You can't see it really well. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. So this ring is my engagement ring and my wedding ring. When we went ring shopping, I knew that I wanted a ring that came with a wedding band. I didn't understand necessarily how much that wedding band would come to mean after we were engaged for over 2 years. But the day when we were married and that wedding band was put on top of the ring to complete the set, really was a completion of a journey for me. What felt like a lifelong journey, but was really only 2 months. And you can't see it right now, but this ring is incredibly sparkly because I just got it cleaned. And as I was thinking about remembering and thinking about what I wanted to do with this video and thinking about the day that I got this ring, I remember when my husband, my then fiance, we got engaged without a ring. And it was just this spur of the moment thing that he was sharing the deepest parts of himself and looked at me and realized that I was listening to the deepest parts of himself and that I wasn't running away and that I wasn't afraid. And I think even then, he knew the journey that was ahead of us. Me and my naivety had no clue, but he knew some of what we would face and some of what we would encounter. So I am a total frugal, economical kind of a person. And so for me, I didn't want to spend a whole lot on the ring. Like, it wasn't about the money for me at all. And so when we went ring shopping together after we were engaged, he actually went in and turned all the price tags over because he didn't want it to be about price. He wanted it to be something that I fell in love with. And he actually did that again for me for my wedding dress. He just said, I want you to find something that you feel absolutely beautiful in and absolutely gorgeous in, because I don't want you to regret anything about our day together. And so when I found this ring, I knew that this was the ring. And they then of course pull out the stones that you put in the ring. And I love this design. I knew I wanted this design with the little swirly swoopy things. There we go. And the stone on top, stone on bottom, stone in the middle. I knew that was what I wanted. And then we picked out the stones, and there was different carat options and different things, and we ended up picking one that still was a really awesome deal. And I was so grateful to have it. It was gorgeous. Christopher goes to pick up the ring, and he goes in and he's gone for a long time. Like, this was just a really fast, we've sized the ring, he'd pick it up before he went to propose again. And he was gone for a long time. I was like, what in the world? And he came out and he said, so they put the wrong stone in, but they're letting us keep it. And it was a bigger stone. Absolutely love S.E. Needham Jewelers. They are fantastic. And they were so awesome about it. They said it was our mistake, so just keep the stone in good health. We're glad you have it. And as he looked at it and I'm looking at it, I'm going, wow, this is so huge. He looked at me and he just said, I hope that in the days to come that you will remember how much I love you. And I wondered a lot since then if he knew just how long that journey would be from the day that he proposed to the day that we got married, and from the day that we got married to today, and decades in the future. But I really do. I look at my ring And I just remember that was at that time, that was a very big investment for him. That was a very big investment for him. But he did it, and he did it gladly because he wanted me to remember that I loved him, even on the days when he couldn't say it. And that's what he said. I hope you'll remember how much I love you, even on the days when I can't say it, even in the days when you don't think I'm feeling it. Look at this ring and remember that I love you. And it still brings up a lot of emotion for me. It still means so much to me to remember him saying that to me. And that, in essence, is the power of remembering. Because there are some days when I am not feeling it, or he's not feeling it, or there are some weeks and months where I feel like that man who proposed twice and got down on one knee at the temple to give me this ring, even though I had already said yes. Sometimes that man is far, far away. But he didn't just give me the ring, he gave me that memory so that I would have the power to remember even in the dark times or the frustrating times or the sad times. And so there is so much power in remembering the good times and letting those warm your heart when the present might not feel quite so warm and fuzzy. And there's also so much power and dangerous power when we only remember the negative and when we only remember the frustrating or the sad. Because there's a flip side to this story, and I'm choosing to go farther back in our past because some things are too fresh to think about, and I'm not ready to remember them yet. But the flip side of this is we were engaged for 2 years, and there are a myriad of reasons why we were, and in hindsight, I'm grateful that we did it. I'm grateful that we walked that path. But in that journey, in those 2 years, we set 3 or 4 wedding dates. And I watched 3 or 4 wedding dates go down the drain. And so much to the extent that when we did end up setting a date and did end up getting married, we gave ourselves 30 days because we'd already been engaged for a good chunk of time. And so I had already planned all the things. I had a dress, we had the cake figured out, everything was ready. It was just inviting the people and setting the date at the temple. But in that moment and in that set of time, I could only remember the negative. And I could only remember having set 3 wedding dates previous to that and having them not happen and having them not come to pass. And so there's a lot of things about those 30 days from when I set the date to when we got married that I regret. Because I was so afraid that this time it was going to fall through, and I was so afraid that it wasn't going to happen again, that I didn't get excited. I didn't invest a lot. I didn't fall madly in love with that stage of our lives because I was living in fear. I remembered all the things that had gone wrong, and so I was only seeing what could possibly go wrong again. And so these 2 stories actually show beautifully the importance of remembering the good things, of remembering the positive. Because I remember this ring, and in hard times or frustrating times, I do look at it and I remember that time in our lives, and I remember his investment in me and in us too, so that I could remember even when I was feeling down how much he loved me. On the flip side of that, I can sometimes remember I can focus on the negative as I did in that story and only see what always seemed to go wrong and be so caught up in that fear, because this is the thing that I've been wanting to share since the very beginning. If you only ever plan for the worst and the worst happens, you've just lived the worst twice. But if you plan for the best, there are still 2 options. The best happens and you have spent your time in joy, Or you plan for the best and the worst happens, but you only lived the worst once. My husband is still with me. Our relationship is still learning and growing. I have not faced that worst in reality. But in supporting someone with depression, I faced that worst in my imagination a lot. And it is so easy to get trapped in the worst case scenarios. It's so easy to let fear come up and rule you and control you and make you miserable. But just like when I was planning my wedding, I missed that precious 30 days because I was so afraid of what wouldn't happen. And now I can be so focused on what might happen that I miss all of the good and the beautiful and the wonderful things that happen. And so I invite you to take the time to remember the beautiful and the sparkly and the delightful and the wonderful, and to let that carry you through times of sadness or frustration or confusion or whatever it needs to carry you through. And that when those doubts come up, when those fears, when those worst case scenarios come up, that you pause and you look at yourself in the mirror and say, do I want to live this once? Or do I want to live this twice? Because I guarantee, yes, it's good to have a plan. It's good to know that you have thought it through so that if it does happen, you know you can run with it. But don't dwell there. Do not stay there. Because that is where pain lives. That's where fear lives. That's where you don't know how to get out of it. So yes, know you're ready. But don't stay. And find the good and find the joyful, because our greatest weapon as supporters of someone with mental illness is remembering the good and being able to bring that good up in select moments with the people that we love. Our greatest superpower is to help us see the best in that person when they can't see the best in themselves. And you do that by holding on to the good and the beautiful and the precious. And you do that by being able to remember the best of them. And so I hope you'll take the time to really do that, to remember the best, and to remember that you do, though you don't control the outcome, you do get to control how many times you live it. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that you will like and subscribe down below, and that you'll share this. I share things about what I wish that I would have known 18 months ago. I sit down and I think and I pray and I go, what is needed in this moment for someone? Because I've been there. I've been in the worst case scenario. I've been in the fear. I've been in the pain. So I know where you're coming from, and I know there's a way out. So thank you for joining me on taking another step to the light. And I hope you will keep joining me as we make these steps to the light and find joy and light together. And I hope you have a fantastic day and a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I will see you again for the next step of this journey. Bye, guys.